I was a certified project manager. I worked in the business world. I have a wonderful life, but there was still something missing. And then I got very sick. I had a collapsed lung. I had something called a pleural effusion where they had to drain like a quart of fluid off of the outside of my lung. I had all kinds of digestive issues. They ended up having to cut my throat and remove my thyroid because of autoimmune disease. So if you're a singer, two things you don't want to have messed with are your throat and your lungs. And I sort of look back at it now as like, well, I wasn't living my authentic self. I wasn't being true to my music. I lost music. I wasn't even listening to music in my car. And I was full of dis-ease, right? I was just not living the life I could have been living with my full health. So on my path of healing, I started going to alternative doctors because I actually had a doctor at Duke who said they couldn't figure out what my autoimmune disease was. She said, "I'll just take 2,400 milligrams of Motrin a day, and if you're in pain." I mean, all of us in this room know that is not something that's okay for us to do, right? So I found this chiropractic nutritionist in Cary, and I really think that he helped save my life, got me on the right path. Between him and my acupuncturist, they really helped to give me the alternatives to just going down this medication route. And in the process, the universe kept tapping me on the shoulder. I really feel like this is what it was. The universe says, "Hey, you need to get certified in sound healing." And I was like, "No," and it just, every time I turned around, I was getting messages from the universe about getting back into sound, getting back my full health, because even though my voice was getting more comfortable singing, I didn't have my confidence. I was like, "Oh no, I can't do," I was uncomfortable being in my skin. And it wasn't until I got back into sound and singing and playing the guitar and doing the certification and working with sound that I felt like I was in the skin I was supposed to be in. And it's been a very interesting journey. And I tell you all that just because this isn't just a whim for me. I am hook, line, and sinker on that music and sound path. I know that music and sound affects us and impacts us in so many ways. You know that, right? If you get in the car with your kids, your friends, your grandkids, and they're playing music that's going, "Wah!" Even like classical music can do that. It can make me feel frisky, then I get nervous. But if we also listen to something soothing and calm, our heartbeat relaxes, we start feeling better, right? So we have seen how music impacts us without maybe being even aware of it. And so I'm going to talk a little bit. I won't go into too many rabbit holes because I could. I love this topic so much, and maybe I'll come back and talk about some other things. But this is pretty much, a screenshot of who I am. I want to talk a little bit, what is sound healing? Well, sound healing uses all kinds of instruments. I brought just a sampling of my instruments today. The guitar, because of the vibrations against my chest, to me that is so therapeutic. But those vibrations are available in singing bowls, and this is a crystal singing bowl. And this one is tuned to a 528 hertz, which is, they consider it the universal DNA healer. It is also, some people refer to it as the frequency of love. And just to hear that frequency, and I can walk around later with that if you would like. This is a little Tibetan bowl. You can hear it's got a little bit of a different tonality. It's a little crisper, a little sharper. Our body actually has some of the same silica kind of material that the crystal bowls have in it. And that's why there's a lot of people who do sound baths, which is when you're basically either sitting or laying down and you're surrounded with sound. They use the crystal bowls a lot because it's part of our makeup, right? So drumming, you know, when someone's drumming, I've been involved in many drum circles before, and you know, here again, it can get frenzied. You can get your heartbeat going. You can really feel that, and you just sort of like your spirit starts flying. Or if it's really low, it sort of helps to calm down your heartbeat, and it makes you feel more at peace. And it's a way, many people use sound as not only a healing modality, but a very spiritual modality. It helps take us to that journey where we can sort of get our mind to become present. And so much of life keeps us going, that we don't have the ability all the time to remind ourselves to be present. There's an author named Eckhart Tolle. Are you guys familiar? Anyone familiar with him? I was actually listening to a podcast with he and Oprah the other day about his book, The New Earth, and he said something in that I just really loved. He said, do you want to be a human being, or do you want to be a human doing? And if you think about that, we do all the time, but how often do we sit quiet, listen to the sounds around us, feel the vibrations of the universe around us, and just embrace that solitude? Look at a flower for what it is. Hear the sound of the birds. Don't try to identify it, just exist. Just be present and be a human being. And that's one thing we can do on a daily basis that doesn't require doctors or sound healers or anybody else to help you with it. Just to be present in your body and start welcoming these experiences. So why do we need sound healing? Because life is so freaking stressful, right? I mean, we're go. And all of the noise, all the technology, I mean, even in this room, we've got the air conditioner. We've got clicking sounds there. We've got distractions. If we have our phones on, we're gonna get buzzed. We are bombarded 24/7 by frequencies that we hear, which are in the range between 20 hertz and 20,000 hertz, and the frequencies we can't hear. Think about your Bluetooth. Think about the radio and the television signals. Think about the electricity that's out there. Think about just everything. If I were to pick up my phone and show you this app that shows hertz, the room could be totally quiet, and you would hear, you'd see these frequency waves. We're not even aware of it. You know, there's so much that we are not aware of. And if you're like me, you've sort of probably lost some of your hearing over the years. Mine's probably due to being in a rock and roll band, but life happens, and we lose our frequency of what we can hear, but it's still there. And it's still, even think about dogs hear much differently than we do. And everything in life is a frequency, right? Our entire body is made up of frequencies. And so if we were to hear all of that, we would probably go lunatics, right? We would do But because all of the noise around us, we've lost connection to our own selves and to our body's rhythms. So the impact, these are great. Stress relief and relaxation. I've talked about a few of these. Improved sleep, pain management, boosted immunity, increased energy and focus, emotional healing, spiritual growth, and creative energy. So I've mentioned some of these before, but who wouldn't like to have some of this stuff back that you've lost? How many people don't get a good night's sleep, that feel heavy with the burdens of life that's just weighing on us all the time, right? Some of these practices that I'm going to share with you today are things that you can do on a daily basis to just help with that a little bit. But I'm also going to talk about what I do as a profession now that can help take it a little bit further. So one of the questions may be, why does sound affect us? So I'm drinking water, knows what percentage on average is water in our bodies?
I'm cheating this on your thing.
About 70% of our body is water. Now, why is that important? Is because water, it moves this vibration and it creates vibrations in our body. Everything is connected in our body through water, through frequency, through energy, right? We know that we're chemical, right? And doctors, Western medicine is great at working on that chemical part of us. But this whole other part of us that's connected with water and energy gets overlooked in so many ways. However, you have a heart attack, what do? They blast you with an electric shock, right? I mean, our bodies have that energy. They know it. They know that current is there. And every organ is vibrating at a different frequency. So when we're in tune with ourselves, we're the most wonderful symphony that you can imagine, right? Can you imagine all of these sounds that are just emanating in our body working together? And when not, have you ever been to a symphony that's tuning up at the very beginning and all of these sounds that are horrific? And you may be asking, well, how does sound work that if I'm out of tune, because I'm listening to something that's, getting one part of my body out of tune, how do I get that back? So our bodies work on something called entrainment. If there's a consistent sound that the body recognizes as a pure tone, it'll say, oh, I recognize that, and it'll start tuning itself up more. Now, because of all the bombardment that we have, it takes more than just, listening to it for 5 minutes or so. What was interesting, when I first started getting into tuning forks, the first tuning fork I had was this 528. That bowl's a 528. I love the 528 frequency. It's just so pretty. So this is a 528 frequency, and I would just sort of activate it and roll it around my head. Some really stressful things came into my life about this time. And I had been doing this before some of these stressful triggers came up. And I got some bad news and I was sad for a few hours. The next day I woke up and I was joyful. Now that was not my typical DNA structure, right? I mean, in the past, if I had gotten upset, I'd hold on to it. I'd carry that burden for a long time. But giving this frequency a chance to work on my system, I let it go. And I kept this tuning fork on my desk, and I would just strike it. My husband actually travels with one. He travels a lot for work, and he takes one with him where he goes. And it's just a nice way to remember, to get centered, to get focused, and just to allow ourselves to relax.
Is it the same frequency for the tuning fork, or different frequencies on the tuning fork?
It's one frequency.
Okay, gotcha.
But if you think about the tuning fork, you hear the one tone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go into it a little bit more in a little bit. But if you think about the tuning, everything sort of works on a bell curve, right?
Yeah.
So we have this one frequency. Let me see, but this one may be a little louder for you to hear. So we've got a frequency in here, right? And it's a beautiful pitch. But it's actually got a bell curve. It's got overtones and it's got undertones. And those together create a specific sound that we hear. I always thought too, it's just a single note, it doesn't change, whatever.
Yeah.
When I started doing the work I'm doing, I can tell you this sound changes quite drastically when it's connected to energy fields and tells me if there's fear and traumas and all that. But I'll get into that in just a minute. It's pretty amazing.
Love that.
But the sound, one of the other things it does is it stimulates the vagus nerve. Does anyone know what the vagus nerve is? So the vagus nerve is very, very important. It's actually two nerves that come down and it intertwines around all of our organs. We've always been told that everything works brain down, right? Our brain is controlling everything. I found out that the vagus nerve, 80% of its job is to send signals back to the brain to tell the brain how the body's doing. And if it's out of whack, if it's not stimulated, the vagus nerve actually can cause that nervousness, the fight and the flight, the fawn and the freeze kind of syndrome. When we activate that vagus nerve and it realizes everything is okay, it helps to allow us to relax. And you can stimulate your vagus nerve with good breathing, with sound healing. I actually work on the face and all around your body with your trigger points on the vagus nerve to help stimulate it and to relax you. So the vagus nerve is very, very important because we seem to almost be in a constant state of frenzy in our lives, right? We have 24/7 access to our cell phones. Everybody has access to us 24/7. That phone rings, more than likely, your mind is going to something, right? It's like, oh God, who needs me this? Or what happened to so-and-so? They don't ever call me, there must be an emergency. There's so many things that our mind does, and we need to help relax that. The vagus nerve stimulation with breath and sound healing are two very powerful ways of doing it. And also like a massage, when you go to massage and you feel sort of achy the next day, that nitrous oxide and the endorphins that have been released, that can happen in a very non-invasive way as well. And it can help to heal your body. So these are just, got a couple of slides here. People think that there's no correlation between a vibration of frequency and an image. There's a Dr. Emoto who actually talked to water molecules, and he froze them. He put them on a slide and froze them, and then looked at them. And these are what the images of the crystals formed out of this water that was spoken kind to. Now, why is this important, and why am I showing this slide? We're 70% water, right? So if we talk negative to ourselves, about ourselves, to other people, that energy is stored in our fluid, in our body. And you can see the impact when it's thankful or wisdom. But look down here. You make me sick. The water does not freeze you. I mean, it's nasty. I mean, our bodies are impacted by how the sounds are coming into our body, what we're being told. One of the important things, and it's not just what other people are telling you. Who has ever heard that expression, I'm my own worst enemy? And I actually hope that that's true in my case. I would hate for somebody else to have talked about me the way I've talked about myself. And we have to ask ourselves why. If I had a roommate that talked to me that way, or a spouse, or a partner, would I stay in that relationship? No. We should talk to ourselves like we talk to and care for a young child, someone who's got potential and this beautiful joy of life. And let's not contaminate it. That's one thing we can do on a daily basis to just remind ourselves, because our words matter, our thoughts matter. And this is showing you a little bit about how that positive information and the vibrations are formed. This is another really interesting, there's something called cymatics. And this man took, a scientist, his name is Hans Jenny, and he took a metal plate and played vibrations under it. And low frequencies created these images that were pretty complex. You changed the frequency, the image changed without him touching it, without anything. So motion, sound, everything, energy is impacted by different frequencies. The higher the frequency, the more ornate the design. So frequency is not just, you know, what you're hearing me talk about. Frequency, everything is frequency. Yes, sir.
What's the design made out of?
The design is made out like a salt.
So that's what it is, salt on top of a plate.
Yeah, so it's, you just sprinkled like a salt or a very fine grain, and then played the frequency, and that, those just moved. There's some wonderful YouTube videos.
Very cool.
They're
It is.
very, very
It's
cool.
incredible.
And people are doing these kind of experiments all the time. The truth is that everything vibrates. That mirror back there vibrates. Our mind can't see that vibration, that frequency. You know, there's only so much that we're capable of acknowledging. But, you know, other animals and other creatures, they see things and hear things differently, right? The trees, total vibration. I mean, all the energy, that's why tree huggers, you know, it's a good way of connecting to nature, right? Or going outside. Everything is a frequency, everything is a vibration. So, you know, we need to always take appreciation of what's around us and look at things maybe a little bit differently. You know, when you start thinking about it and you like go to sit in a chair, it's like, are you really solid? So I've talked about a little bit about our bodies being 70% water and the electricity that runs through it. We're chemical, but we are electromagnetic in nature. Our top of our head has a negative charge. Think of us like a battery, right? So our top of our head has a negative charge, and we're getting all these positive ions from the sun's energy that's coming down. Our feet have actually a positive charge. So when I was talking about grounding a second ago and hugging the tree, we need that connection to nature because the nature has a negative charge. So our positive charged body can get rid of all of those negative ions that are no longer serving our body, and we need to just get it released. So when we're not able to ground, when we're not able to have that connection, and rubber-soled shoes will not let us have that connection. It's a resistor basically for us. So we need to be focused about getting out if we can. Go walk outside in barefoot if you have grass, or that's why if you go to the beach and you feel so much better when you've been on the beach, it's because you're barefooted, you're getting grounded, that wonderful salt water from the ocean, and just all of the energy that you're getting from nature is helping your body to calm down. Without getting grounded, without having this source to let it go, we're actually retaining energy that's causing inflammation. There's a lot of studies out there that's showing that it's possibly the reason that there's a lot of autoimmune disease out there and other things. So we need to have this release of energy. And but being a battery, we need to keep our battery charged, right? How do we do that? Well, good breath, being present in our bodies, being grounded, bringing in things that generate goodness for our souls. All of these things help us get grounded and to charge our body. Because if our battery is charged, if we're feeling good and we're doing things that's making us feel like this wonderful battery, so think about it, we're bringing in this positive charge from the sun, and we're bringing in this wonderful grounding energy from the earth, and it's spinning in our system, sort of like one of those barbershop signs, the red and white signs so it's moving around in our system and it's charging us. And as long as we can keep that going, we're going to be energized. I'm sure all of you at some point have used the term, I'm just worn down. I'm out of energy. I don't have, you're right. And have you noticed that with your phone, when you've got like about 20 to 30% of battery, it goes fast, right? I mean, it's just like there's that slippery slope that once you get to that point, you gotta recharge. And so think about that. Next time you start feeling worn down, how can I recharge this battery? Because we all need to do that, or we're going to allow ourselves to be weakened and our energy field is not going to allow, our energy field if we're weak allows dis-ease and, you know, bad things to happen to us. We don't have that protective shell. Because with any battery, it all has that shell around it, right? That energy field. And our body does as well. So there were some couple cool things I thought here. Did you know that if you were to crush or bend a bone, it sparks? I didn't realize that. DNA and cells give off electromagnetic energy, and that's how our body talks to each other, right? I mean, all of this is electrical communication that's going on with this beautifully in tune symphony, or not, right? So talking about the battery that we have in the field, it has been found scientifically that we have this thing called a biofield. Some people refer to it as an aura. And it's sort of a torrid shape, which means it's circular, but it caves in the top and it caves into the bottom. You think that's where our poles are for our energy charging, right? And then our energy expands. And it expands up to like 6 feet away from our bodies, could be 8. In 1994, the National Institute of Health Scientists were the ones who came up with the term biofield. So this is science. It's not just woo-woo, well, yeah, whatever she says, but she's a hypocrite. This is real science. I have been like a sponge and absorbing and learning everything I can from this woman named Eileen McCusick. She has been doing this work for 27 years, and she went down the rabbit hole big time with this whole electric universe theory and how does it work, and she came from a very scientific approach to helping heal the body by working in this biofield. She's been working on it, like I said, for 27 years. She's realized she was a massage therapist for a while, and she had tuning forks that she worked with her clients, and one day she heard a loud noise outside, and as she was coming back from the window, she activated her tuning fork, and she was pretty far away from her client, and it went, "Wah!" And she was like, "What was that? What is that sound?" And she had never heard that before, especially that far away from the body. So she started investigating it, and she's actually mapped the human biofield. And it's really interesting. What happens is energy gets trapped in this. And if you think about it, if it's 6 feet away, I'm just over 60 years old. So from my body to my hand, just about age 60 to 30. And then the next 3 feet or so, that's going back to birth. I was working on this one client one day, remotely, believe it or not. She was in DC, and I was in my studio here in Person County. And I was working on her energy field, and I was pretty far away from her left foot, which is your left side is your feminine side, your right side is your masculine side. And I was about 6 feet away. So this is like birth age for this woman. And it was shrill. And I'm like, do you know anything about your birth? Did you have a traumatic birth, or was your mom upset, or was there anything that happened? And she said, oh yeah, I was a blue baby. So which means she had to have all of her blood replaced, right? I had no way of knowing that. But it was very present in her energy field. And so what I do is when I find something like that, I just sit there with my tuning fork and I try to break it up, much similar to the way massage therapists will like get in a muscle and just dig and dig and dig. I use a tuning fork to do that. It's maybe 6 feet away from your body. And the tone finally settles down. And I talk with the person about what's going on, and they get some closure. But any kind of unresolved energy, unresolved issues, anger, trauma, fears, that feeling of unmet needs, of being unworthy, all of these things that we've been told. Think about your entire life, and pretty much all women in here except for my husband. We've been told, children should be seen and not heard, right? Your opinion doesn't matter, you're a woman. you have to, you learn your entire life to second guess your value, your worth, your words, so we bite it down, right? All of that things that we hold on to, we didn't say that we wanted to, or that we didn't do because we weren't allowed to, or all of these things that were done to us, fragments of those are in our biofield, and they're weighing us down. They are causing trauma and disease, right? This woman, Eileen McCusick, has found that, pretty much she's healed almost everything using the tuning forks in the biofield. It's phenomenal. So what does it do? Basically, the tuning fork, as I mentioned, and this is the primary one I use, I go into it, and it's sort of like, you ever seen those little faces that have the little magnetic, the little metal pieces, and you have a magnet and you can draw it?
Yeah.
So if you think about your biofield in that same manner, where you've got these little fragments of energy that are stuck out there, I'm sort of like the Pied Piper of that energy, and I activate my tuning fork, and then when I get it calmed down, if there's one of those traumatic experiences, then I bring it back into the core, because the first thing I work with my clients is to get their core strengthened. We do exercises with breath and everything else. So then I bring it back into the core and let the body deal with this energy now that it can reevaluate and send off, So everyone who's ever gotten off my tables have said, I feel so much lighter. I feel relaxed. People say I've got the best sleep I've ever had. It's just, but it goes even deeper than that. By being able to get rid of this energy that's resolved, or that's unresolved, here you can see on the screen, reduces pain, anxiety, tension, calms the nervous system, restores balance, reduces pain and tension, alleviates disease, and it strengthens your biofield. And we all know that when our core is strengthened and when we're clean here, we can face anything, and we're able to take it on in a different way. And we've all sensed, I bet, everyone in this room has walked up to someone and they know right away that they're going to be a great friend, right? The energy that they put out. Or you're like, I'm gonna go walk over here around this person because I really don't like the kind of energy that this person is putting off, right? So we feel that biofield all the time. And another thing that I heard in that Eckhart Tolle podcast, it was, if you fight something, it gets stronger. Not you get stronger, but that thing you're fighting gets stronger. And if you resist, it persists. So all of these things, this fighting, this resistance, all gets trapped here. And so one of the things we have to learn to do as well as part of our healing is we're all gonna have emotions. Every emotion is gonna come and be present with us. So we have to just embrace that and say, okay, I'm really mad right now. There's cause for it. Okay, let it go. I'm not gonna hold on to it. Another story was, there were these two monks, and I love this visualization. Two monks are walking down the road, and they're dressed in their white robes, and it's sort of a little bit of a muddy road. They come to this one place where there's this woman in this beautiful kimono, and she doesn't want to cross the road because it's muddy, and she's at an impasse. She can't go any further, and this monk sees that, and he picks her up, carries her across the road, and puts her down, and continues on their path. Well, about 4 hours later, the other monk says to him, you really shouldn't have picked up that woman. We're not allowed to touch women. You really should have done that. And the monk who carried the woman over said, are you still carrying that woman? I put her down 4 hours ago. And if you think about that, how much do we do that? How much are we holding on to that energy that then gets stuck here, right? So I know I'm talking a whole lot more about just sound energy, but that's sort of the way I see it. It's sound helps us heal, but then we can do other things to help ourselves stay healing, and to stay grounded and to look at things a little different. So maybe we're reducing the amount of drama that we're storing in our biofield. So I find it all so fascinating. I feel like a little kid all over again, just learning a whole new way of understanding life. One of the other things that I love to do, so this is an unweighted tuning fork. And when I strike this tuning fork, you hear it. And that is called an unweighted tuning fork. Doesn't have weights on it. This tuning fork is a weighted tuning fork. It's got weights on it. When I activate that, you really don't hear it very much, but it vibrates more. And this is the kind of tuning fork that you use on bodies. So, you can roll it like this, you can put it like, use the end of it. There's something called sonopuncture. And sonopuncture is when you're using a weighted tuning fork on acupuncture points. This is what I use when I work with the vagus nerve on the body. My husband was my very first guinea pig. And I got this tuning fork, he'd been on a trip and he came back and he'd had this perpetual pain in his leg. He had these beautiful soccer legs, but one of them just would not relax. And so I got this and I'm like, you're gonna be my guinea pig. And I activated it and I started working on that calf. And it was probably 10, 15 minutes later. And he's like, it's relaxed. It doesn't hurt anymore. And about every couple months, he's like, I can feel it starting to tighten up. I need to tune up. It's not a one and done necessarily, but he had gone to doctors, to acupuncturists, to massage therapists, to chiropractors, all of these people to try to get help in relaxing that muscle, and it didn't work. This tuning fork, because the vibration is so strong, it penetrates deeper into the skin than an acupuncture needle can. And it stimulates much more than an acupuncture needle can. If I get to a really hard point, I'll take a crystal and I'll put it on the point where it's really stressed, and I'll put it on that and it vibrates and people are like, oh my gosh, I feel that so far. It just radiates with the vibration so deep into the body. This one woman I treated, she had numbness in the bottom of her foot. She said the doctors kept putting needles in it and she couldn't ever feel it. She'd had 5 back surgeries, had pins and plates in her back, and she could only go up the stairs, her right foot leading, and then she'd have to hold up, and then she'd bring up her left foot because she just had no sensation in that. I was amazed. After the very first treatment that I did with her, she could feel the vibration on the bottom of her foot. She was able to go up and down stairs. She didn't have to hold on the railing. She could use both feet going up and down the stairs. And she's like, oh my gosh, this has been a game changer for me. And she's been one of my biggest advocates out there because she's like, oh my God, look what I can do. And the next time I saw her about 3 weeks later, her energy was different. Think about freedom. Freedom from pain, freedom from depression, freedom from agony, freedom from malaise, just freedom of feeling like crap all the time, right? If you could have that kind of freedom in your life, what would you do with that?
It's difficult to explain because I've had that. My last husband was a very abusive, dominating, controlling person. And all I was left with after he died was a kitty that was adopted from the rescue vet. Well, I want to tell you, that cat is the best companion I could ever have. She loves music, and I know when she's acting in a certain way that I have to put this CD on the CD player, and it just levels everything out. And it's like, and then she'll come, meow, meow, and then when she wants food, or she wants a drink, or she wants my attention.
Yeah. And what is her vibration, her purr? How does that make you feel? You know, think about
It's like,
that vibration
Yeah.
that she's sharing with you.
it's
Yeah.
like a little, almost like a music box,
Yeah.
is the best thing I can say. And she'll get up here on my chest and she'll just purr away, and the next thing I know, she's gone sound asleep with the classical music on the CD player that I played in band and orchestra in high school.
Wonderful. And I bet you too, if you have that, when you have that experience, your mind's not thinking about, I have to go cook dinner or do laundry or
No,
this, the
no,
other.
it's like-
You're present. You're
It's
in
like, oh,
that moment.
Look at this little fur
Yeah.
ball that now needs me, and
Yeah.
she's curled up next to me, and it's the one thing my husband that would never pay attention to me and stole money out of my purse and all kinds of garbage. It's the one thing that he did to me that I no longer have to deal with. I've got this little creature that needs me. She's dependent on me for her food, for her water, for her affection, for whatever. And if I don't get into bed early enough at night, she's there on my pillow.
I have a 100-pound dog that's the same way.
So you can appreciate, except it's easier, well, I don't know that it's easier to get the cat up the pillow. Because that's her place if she gets there first.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and those kind of things are what we need to cherish and relish and you know, focus more on this wonderful energy that we're getting from
From
this
fur ball,
this
if you will.
wonderful
Whatever, this little
being.
creature that
Yeah.
can talk to us.
This bundle of frequency, this you know. So I'm so glad you have that, and you know, that's what I would love us all to be more present of. You know, is just what gives us joy. You know, let's see, I've got just a couple more slides here, but sonopuncture is something that's very, very cool. It's been incredibly powerful, and you know, I think it blows me away. I am still, every time I work on someone, I'm in awe of what these tuning forks can do. A funny story, I was working on my mother. She's 85 years old, 86 years old now. She was in a walker, and I noticed that she was sort of dragging her feet. And I activated this and I was rubbing it, and this is all it feels like. You know, you can't really feel too much on it unless you've got something that needs to be paying attention to. Then you go, what is that? But she's like, why are you electrocuting me? I mean, she was yelling at me. I was working on her leg right here. Her foot was going like this, and her thigh was going like, meh. And she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, Mama, I'm just, you know, but it was fascinating because I think maybe there was some fascia that was wrong, or there were some nerves that were reconnecting, and there was action in her leg that she needed to have stimulated so bad. And for like a week or two later, she was still using the walker, but she had no pain. And but it was really, really hilarious. And I guess I'm a bad daughter because I kept like doing it to her because like, oh my God, I'm making Mama dance, you know. But after a couple of times on the leg, I said, does that hurt? She goes, no, it feels great. You know, so it's just like, it does its magic, it works on it. And then you don't feel the sensation anymore. It's pretty amazing. So I do have a business here in Person County that it's called Healing Tones, and I would love to see you. But you know, in the meantime, if you know, make your appointments. I'd be glad to see you. But there's some things you can do. You know, you can take care of yourself and be more aware. Now that I've mentioned this to you, maybe you'll say, oh, yeah, I need to do that more. Remember to speak kindly to yourself. Mm-hmm. Our body is water. Make sure you are hydrating. Make sure you're getting all of the nutrients that your body needs. Good healthy foods, good water, clean water. And I love this expression, have more in your day, right? Instead of, like, you know, I have to go to the doctor. Or I get to go and tell the doctor what's new. You know, I get to experience them. Reframe things in your mind that you're not being a victim in your own life. How can you be the hero in your life, right? And have more. So I gotta take care of the grandkids. It's like, oh my gosh, the grandkids are coming over. You know, what fun things can we do today? Even if they're little pills. pickles, you know, just figure out a way to change it, and then I bet the way you interact with them will be different too. So the next one is ground yourself, and as you can see, I'm barefooted in here. We're on wood, but it's not the best way to be grounded because I'm sure there's all kinds of other things in here that are keeping me from being grounded. I bought myself a pair of moccasins that don't have rubber soles on the bottom of them. The only way I could do it was to find a kit on Amazon, so I made a pair of moccasins that I wear when I go outside if I don't want to be barefooted. Just sit outside for 30 minutes a day if you can, or at least a few times a week. Find some place if there's a garden, or if there's, we're very fortunate we have a koi pond in our yard right by my studio. And so I sit out there and just watch the koi fish, listen to the waterfall, and I'm barefooted right by the koi pond. So find ways to find yourself, your center, your ground, and strengthen your core. Another thing is feel the emotions and let them go. Don't let them get trapped in there, you know? Stress happens. But here again, do we want to be a victim in our life story? Do we want to hold on to negative things? Do we want to perceive things that the world is doing this to me, you know? You're doing it to yourself. If, like that monk who had put the girl down, it was done, it was over. This other one was feeling very ticked off that he had, you know, so he was holding this negative energy. Let's see where that happens in our lives. Let's try to be, like I said, the hero in our front point. Focus on gratitude and mindfulness. I know that my life changed pretty dramatically in my own perspective about a year and a half ago when I spent time and every day focus on gratitude. You know, I'm grateful for you all being here today. I'm grateful for the amazing healing powers of tuning forks. I was very grateful for the rain we got the other day. We needed it so bad, right? So you can find gratitude in almost everything if you look for it. You know, we're so grateful to live in a country where we've got, you know, paved roads and sewage and water, all these other things that are taking care of us, and we don't have to even worry about it. But so we're so wealthy in so many ways because of what we are able to take part of. Just focus on the gratitude and love yourself. That's a hard one for so many of us, right? Because that person who was yelling at me all the time told me how horrible I was and how, you know, I wasn't good enough, I was too fat, I was too old, I was too, whatever. I had to really take time and look in the mirror every morning and tell myself, you're beautiful, you are strong, you are healthy, you know, you got this. And I mean, it was hard because I felt like that imposter syndrome, right? When I first started doing it. But you get used to it. And if you're not gonna love yourself, who's gonna love you, right? I mean, you gotta put that energy into you, and that's what part of the thing that heals your own battery. So, okay, schedule an appointment with me. We have this wonderful studio in the back of our house, right by the koi pond, and you know, I've open for business. Would love to have you all come out there.